So then in December December 1st, 2011, an Amish farmer contacts me. This is the first incident that dealt with interposing with citizens. And you have to understand Amish. Amish don't vote. They say they cast their ballot on their knees. And that's just, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I wish they would vote. That would certainly help. But they don't vote. There was really no political reason for me to get involved in this. I just wanted to protect one of my citizens. And they're very peaceful people. They won't strike even if they're struck. And we rarely have any trouble with them in our county. So I found it unusual that he contacted me. So he said, "Can you come to my house and sit down at my kitchen table and talk to me about that?" And of course, as sheriff, I said sure. So he shared with me how FDA inspectors, the Food and Drug Administration, he's actually a milk farmer, and the crazy thing is, what he was doing was he was farming, milking his cows. He was selling his raw milk to food co-ops, sometimes across state lines. Now, he wasn't breaking any Indiana laws in that, but apparently the feds think that raw milk is not good for you, so they want to get involved in regulating that. So you have to understand that in dairy farms in Indiana, it's actually routine that the FDA would come probably annually to inspect, and basically what the farmer does is they give them consent to come in. Yeah, come on in, do the inspection, and leave, and give me the paper that says I'm good or whatever. Well, this Amish farmer, incidentally, was, because he was on the radar of the feds, they were starting to come to him sometimes every 2 weeks, harassing him and, just causing a lot of problems for him. They even summoned him to a grand jury in Detroit, Michigan, which is obviously outside of Elkhart County, Indiana. And so remember, I'm meeting with him around December 1st. December 8th was his grand jury, and he was called there by the Department of Justice. So he wanted me to get involved, and I consulted Richard Mack, and I said, being only sheriff a year, I said, I had a constitutional mindset, but I asked Richard for assistance. He helped guide me through that. So I realized that, I'm from the government, and I have to abide by the Fourth Amendment and the Bill of Rights. Then I expect the federal and state governments to do the very same thing. So I asked the Amishman if he wanted me to get involved. He said he did, and that's pretty brave of him, because I knew it was going to stir up a hornet's nest, and he said, let's go. So there was no physical confrontation. There was no SWAT team coming in and pushing the FDA agents out of the dairy farm or anything like that. Basically, I didn't even have their names of the FDA agents. All I had was the agent or the trial attorney from the Department of Justice, which is Ross Goldstein, which Chris Anhall had a quote of him on her previous presentation. So I emailed Ross and I said, "Greetings. This is the sheriff of Elkhart County, Indiana, and I understand that your cohorts in the federal level from the FDA are visiting this farmer's property every couple weeks or so and inspecting. And I just wanted to put you on notice that the Amishman has revoked their consent, and I'm putting you on notice that as sheriff of this county, that any further arrival or attempted inspections by FDA agents on this farmer's property without a warrant, signed by a judge based on probable cause, I will have you arrested or removed from this property." As you can imagine, knowing our federal government, they didn't take that lying down. So I got a scathing response from the Department of Justice trial attorney, and as Chris Anhall already alluded to, he wants to talk about the supremacy clause. And so here's what he says, and she kind of referenced to that. The Constitution of the United States provides that the laws of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, any laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Of course, if we're astute, we know kind of what he was missing there. But he goes on, and I'll get to that. He goes on to say, the United States Constitution, Article 6, the Supremacy Clause, has been interpreted since the earliest days of the nation to mean that federal law trumps state law whenever the two conflict. And then he goes on and he says, because it is federal law, indeed an act of Congress, officers or employees of the FDA may do so lawfully without regard to Indiana law to the contrary, and then I add, and without a warrant or what the Constitution has to say about this. So he goes on to say, and alludes to the threat, refusal to permit entry or inspection as authorized by Section 374 is in itself a federal criminal offense, which under certain circumstances is a felony punishable by imprisonment for up to 3 years. See what he was doing? Yeah. So we'll go back to the Supremacy Clause, and of course, I'm doing much of this is stuff you already know, but just kind of to put the nail in the coffin. The Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, shall be the supreme law of the land. And therefore, only laws made in pursuance of the Constitution become supreme, and regulations, as well-meaning as they might be, could never, nor are they designed to supersede the Constitution. So I had the Supremacy Clause thrown at me. I had the threat of incarceration thrown at me. And then, to knock it all off, I have the county attorney, and he realized that I had sent this letter to the Department of Justice. He goes, oh my God, Brad, what are you doing? I'm supposed to protect you. I said, it's okay. It's all right. In fact, the Department of Justice trial attorney said, Sheriff, thank you for your letter. Put me in touch with your county attorney. And I sent another email back to him, and I said, I'm the sheriff of this county. I run this county, not my county attorney. So you have to ask the question, will I stand by while my citizens' rights are being abused, albeit most of the time we protect from criminals, but in this case, we had a government overreach, in my opinion. So what if the feds came after me? And, you know, I teach the Constitution to my kids. I stand before them. I stand before God. I stand before my people. And I said, you know, even if I was incarcerated for defending the Constitution, that won't be a fire that would be put out too quickly if the federal government did that to a sitting sheriff. And so I wasn't too concerned about that, but I was willing to take that risk. I don't need to, I'm sure this is stuff you already know, but we have the balance of power. We have legislative, judicial, executive, and then the implications for law enforcement, and that is, I don't check my mind at the door. Remember our founding fathers, okay. You know, a reporter once said, well, who made you judge of the Constitution? I said, okay, Mr. Reporter. I said, let's say the state legislature today passes a law that says you can't print what you want in your paper. I said, what would you do? He said, I'd print it anyways. I said, who made you judge? Officers are taught to believe that the oath means that you need to enforce all laws. And we've heard today, and I affirm, that's not accurate. We don't take an oath and say, I, Brad Rogers, promise to write speeding tickets and put bad guys in jail. No, those are all things that sheriffs and deputies can do by law. I get it. But the oath is, I will promise to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God. So let's look at what happens after this confrontation. December 5th, the farmer receives a certified letter in the mail releasing him from the grand jury. How's that? And remember, you don't need a SWAT team to do this. Sometimes you just need some backbone to take a stand. I'm no Mr. Tough Guy. You just need to take a stand and say, no, I'm not going to tolerate that in my county. So I checked before I came to this conference. That was December 1st, 2011. 10 years later, the FDA still hasn't shown back to his farm, and he's still in business. In fact, he's quadrupled his output.